Hello and welcome back to another video tutorial here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller and this is our final tutorial that we've been working on that deals with creating windows, cutting them into buildings, and essentially creating a building itself. And after all that work that we've done, the front of our building looks great. Problem is we've done nothing with the two other sides, nor have we done anything with the back. Now I'm not going to cover putting a hole in the door, putting a hole in the side of the building to create a door. With all that we've done in creating windows, it's pretty obvious how we can go about creating a door. But there is one final thing, two final things I would like to do to this model before we bring it into view. I know at the end of our last tutorial I said that we were finished, but upon looking at this a little bit further, there's just two more very quick little modifications that I'd like to make to this before we bring it into view. And I'm sure you will agree once I'm finished, the few moments that we spend making these two modifications will definitely be time well spent. First thing I want to do is work on the roof. And it looks good as it is. The problem is it's not very realistic. I'm just going to quickly apply a light colored material to it so that we can see it better. It looks good as a roof. Unfortunately, it's paper thin. There's no thickness to it. So I will select it, both sides of those faces. I'm going to come up here on my Vertex Modeling tab. I'm going to click on Fast Extrude, and what that does is it quickly just extrudes it to whatever height that we want. Well, it's a roof. We don't need it too thick. And that looks pretty good. Unfortunately, you look at it underneath and all we've done is created like a box lid. We haven't created a bottom to it. All we have is a top and side. So let's quickly add a bottom to it. Come up here to Edit, and with the two top faces still selected, I'm going to click on Copy, click on Paste, and that creates a copy of just these two top faces that we have copied. Now what I want to do is I want to line them up so that they are perfectly in place here on the bottom of this particular object. And to do that very quickly, we can come up here to Utilities tab. We've been using to great extent the Lay-On tool. I'm going to come up here and use the Snap Align. And essentially what I want to do is I want to line this point here right up to this point. And I don't want to have to do it manually, because that will essentially mean I'm eyeballing it and I'm just guessing, and that's not very precise. But by using the Snap Align tool, I can do it very precisely. So I will click on this corner of the roof that we just copied, and then I will come up and click on this corner of my roof object, and I don't even have to hit Validate, Enter, nothing. That's it. It puts it right into place. So I will select both of these objects and weld them together. I guess I can call it shingles now, because that is the texture that I want to apply to it when we get it into view. If I don't know what to call a particular object, but I do know what material I want to apply to it when I get it into view, I will name it the name of the texture or the material that I'm going to apply to it, because I don't have much of an architectural understanding and I don't know all the little names of the various objects that go into creating a building. I can make them, but I don't know what they're technically called, but I do know what material I usually want to apply to them. So that helps me identify what the names of all my objects are as they start accumulating here in the in my scene tree. Okay, so that's one thing that we've finished, and I'll hide that now. Let's get back to our building. Here's our building. It looks great. We've created our windows, put a lot of time into it. Now we have two options. One, we can recreate all those windows all over again on the opposite side, but we'd be wasting our time. I created a tutorial over at Geekatplay Studio, which is learning to use the symmetry tool, which is this object right up here. And if you're not familiar with it, or if I go too quickly in using it on this tutorial, I would urge you to check out the symmetry tutorial over at Geekatplay. I worked through it a little bit slower, and I think I explain it a little bit more thoroughly. So in wanting to duplicate, create windows on the back side of this object, you recall in our earlier tutorial we can't use the tessellate tool because we've cut holes in it. It tells us right up here it doesn't work on, hang on a second, it doesn't work on objects with holed faces. So knowing that there's always more than one way to solve our problems, we're going to do just that. I'm going to hold down Control and D to duplicate my object. I'm going to hide one of them, and what I want to do is come up here to select faces. I want to select that triangle, hold down Shift, select that triangle, which is the front and back of our roof. I'm going to delete those. I'm going to hide this, come back to our other copy of the building, and now I'm just going to select all the building faces, but keep those triangles. So now I've got two objects, one with the triangles and the other with the building. I'm going to hide the triangles for now. Don't need to see them. And now we want to, actually I do need to see them. Now we're going to make holes in the other side of our building without having to do each one manually. And since we can't use our tessellate command, we're going to figure out another way to accurately divide our building in two. So I'm just going to create a cube. I'm going to make it large enough so that it cuts our building in half visually. It's not going to be actually cutting the building in half. And I know at the top of this triangle, that is, if you draw a line straight down, that is the center line for our building. So using that as a visual reference, I'm going to move this cube over until it comes in contact with right up here the very peak of my triangle. And I'm just going to come in and nudge it over until it is right there. Now that is the middle of my model. So selecting on my building, I'm going to select the back half. I'm going to bring it in, shrink it, move it over until it is right there on the face of this cube I created, and now it is in perfect alignment with the center of my model. So I have, if I get rid of this cube now, which I don't need anymore, I have taken my building and shrunk it in half. I'm going to select it again without moving it. I'm going to select the back face. I'm going to hit the delete key, get rid of it. Now I'm going to come up here and click on my symmetry tool. And if I expand my properties tab, all I need to know now is how to communicate with this tool so I can speak its language and have it do for me what I want it to do. And if you look at my other symmetry tool tutorial, you'll get a better understanding on how I explain what this is. I know I want it on the, not on the plus Z, but I want it on the minus Z. I'm going to hit validate to finish off the use of this tool, spin my model around, and there we've got our windows on the back half of our building without having to remodel it. So all three objects, the triangles, the front and the back half of my building, I'm going to hit Control A to select all of them. I'm going to weld them together. I'm going to lock this so I don't accidentally select it. I don't need my shingles. I want my windows. I don't need the wood, I need the mullions, and I need my glass. And with those three items selected, we want to duplicate them and put them on the back side of our windows. So with those three selected, I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to hit my D button to duplicate them. I'm going to spin it around because it needs to be reversed. As I start spinning, now I'm going to hold down my Shift key, which constrains this tool to 45-degree increments. Now I'm just going to move them to the back of the building, just like so. And we have two options here on aligning them. I can do it by eyesight. I can eyeball it, but that's not very precise. Instead, I'm going to come up here to my Snap Align tool. And this tool, I wish Cinema 4D had something like this. It is incredibly useful. I'm going to click on this corner of this group of objects because this corner I want to have aligned to this little point here on my window. So with this corner, this point selected, I'm going to click on that point, and can you believe that? Everything is perfectly aligned, and in just literally a couple mouse clicks, we have duplicated all of our modeling work. How about that? Now we can enable the all of our other objects, and there's our model right there, done here in hexagon, half of which a couple mouse clicks and one or two tools the program did for us. So this is, I'm going to pause it right here, and I'm going to bring it into view. Before I do that, let me export it. I'm going to come down here, making sure none of these objects are hidden. If any of them are hidden, they will not export. So all of them are enabled. I don't have to worry about my example buildings here. I don't want to export those. So with all of our objects visible, and come up here and click on Export, Wavefront Objects. I'm just going to store it on my desktop. Save that. Yes. Now if you want to know a little bit more about exporting your objects and texturing them in View, here at Geekatplay Studios, there's already a tutorial in the View section on just this process, and you'll find them under Area 51, and it is tutorial number 18, Modeling in Hexagon. It shows you how to create a model, how to export it into View, and how to texture it in View. I'm going to go ahead and do some texturing on my own, but you'll see another way to go about doing it from the perspective of the author who created this tutorial. So we've exported this model. I'm going to go ahead and save this file. And I'm going to pause here and bring this file into View, and I'll join you on the other side. So here we are into View. I've gone ahead and imported my model here and placed it in its own layer. I'm going to ungroup everything. The glass, I'm going to group all as one. The mullions, we want to keep our horizontal and our vertical ones separate. Got the wood, which is that across there. Our windows, our shingles, which is our roof, and our building material itself. I think we're all ready to go ahead and start texturing this. I'll grab my group of window panes just to make things simple here. We want glasses, and here's a dirty glass texture that I created quite a while ago. I think that will work. Apply it to that. Our vertical mullions, I think I'm going to use a bitmap for that. And I want chipped paint. Now these are our vertical mullions, so I want the grain of this wood texture, I want it running up and down, which is exactly why I kept my vertical and my horizontal mullions grouped separately. If you're not familiar with retexturing objects, let me go through this a little more slowly and thoroughly. Double click up whenever you select an object, whatever color or texture it does have assigned to it, it will show right up here. So we've done our vertical ones. Let's do our horizontal ones. I certainly don't want this bleachy white look. I'll double click on that, and because I want to use a photograph, I'm going to click on mapped picture. Come up here, I want it object parametric. This little arrow icon down here, if I click on it, it'll take me to a default folder from Eon that allows me to access textures. I don't have too many in here that I use. So I'm going to come down here to this folder, and I know it's automatically going to take me to my desktop. And I want to select my chipped paint. Now this is the horizontal mullions we're working on, so looking at the texture here on this picture I just imported, the green is running horizontally. That's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. This little roof portion up here, it's going to have wood. Actually, I want to apply the same wood texture to it as I did for my horizontal mullions, and I want the wood for this running horizontally. So since I've already set it up here, I'm just going to click on the texture for my horizontal mullions, just going to click on it and drag it down over my wood and release. And now you see up here that that same texture is applied to it. My windows, what do I want for my windows? I don't want that texture. Chip paint, no, I don't want that one. What is this? That's what we're going to use for the roof. I think I'll try this texture right here. And again, it's a photo, so I want object parametric. Click on mapped picture, click on that little arrow, click on this open folder here, and I want brick wall in sun. Can't promise how this is going to turn out. I won't know until I render it. Shingles, which is our roof, it's going to have another photograph applied to it. And that is the name of that particular texture. And our building, I don't know how this one is going to turn out. Mapped picture, but we will see how this one looks. And that is that one right there. So let's see how this looks. Let's give it a quick render. Let's come up here and render it to screen. Let's do a 600 by 800. And that looks pretty good. I think I can go ahead and reduce the not the resolution, but the scale of our roofing material. I'll go ahead and do that. And it's called shingles. I'm just going to reduce it just a tad. Let's come back up here. I think that looks a whole lot nicer. You see there is some thickness to our roof now because of that one little extra step that we did in this last tutorial. What I don't like is it appears as though the texture of our building is really stretched high. So let's see if we can compress that a little bit. Open that back up. The image scale, remember Y is vertical, so let's come down and compress the vertical orientation of our texture. And that looks a lot more natural. Now what I want to do is select all of them because I want to zoom in and get a better look at what those little window frames of ours are doing and how they look. So I've got to zoom in real close. Alright, let's render that, see how that looks. And that material looks pretty good. I think it's a little small though. I'll stop this render. That material looks really good. I'm going to increase it just a little bit because it just looked too small. The bricks looked unrealistically small. And that looks okay. I got an object parametric. And let's go check on our mullions too while we're zoomed in. I'm just going by this quick little display so I can figure out how close to zoom in on our mullions. Okay, apparently the scale of those is going to need to come down a little bit. Let's do 0.5 and the horizontal one's 0.5. Let's see how that looks. It's looking a little bit better, but it almost looks as though the direction or the orientation of this one, of the vertical mullions, is horizontal, and that's not what we want. So let's check just to make sure I did this correctly. Well, it's looking like it's running vertical. Let's try 0.2 and 0.2. Those horizontal ones look good. Well, let's just see what happens if we change the orientation of the vertical ones. It just might look better. Now we've got the orientation of the wood grain on the vertical mullions going horizontally, and yeah, that does not look good. So I definitely want to keep it going vertically. Maybe reducing it down a little bit more. Ah, that's looking better already. I think I'll do the same thing to the horizontal ones, reduce that down a little bit more. And let's see what we've got. Yeah, like that. Alright, I'm going to go up here and select all of them. Now I want to look at the top of this little wood piece that we created up here, our little wooden border. And that looks good, and looks good like chipped wood. I think I'll go ahead and group these together. Center it. And do another. I'm going to change atmospheres. The default atmosphere I've changed for view when I open it. It opens up to an atmosphere that I have changed so it has zero sunlight. I'm sorry, zero shadows. That way it makes it easier to see things. It brightly illuminates everything so I don't have to worry about shadows obscuring things, and I can see things more easily. But now that I'm kind of happy with what we've got, okay, let's give this a quickie render. See how it looks. Again, there's no doors in it, but I think with what we've gone through with the tutorial, you should have more than enough capability of creating doors and cutting them in there. And I'd say from what we started with, what our objective was and what our goal was, this is our building, and I think everything is worked out just fine. I think our building looks terrific here in view. So that's all I've got for this 4-part series on creating windows and making buildings, and that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching here at Geekatplay Studios. My name is Gary Miller. Have a good day.